to be world champion, world championship, won.
Williams' good qualifying was undone as soon as the lights went out when Ralph and Montoya plummeted down the order with terrible getaways, not helped by both being on the dirty side of the track. And things got much worse for Ralph when he spun at turn 2, so the Williamses ended the opening lap 8th and 18th. At the front, Alonso was away cleanly and Webber had slotted into second. As was probably expected, Alonso and Webber were the first front runners to pit on lap 13, but by the time they did, Alonso was more than 20 seconds clear of Webber, who was holding up the rest of the field. Alonso was asked about the first stint after the race, and he said, "In the first 2 or 3 laps I had Mark Webber in the mirror, and on the 8th or 9th lap I asked the team, where are the others? And they told me 15 seconds away, and I thought, oh my gosh." Alonso said he pushed hard in the first stint and then controlled his pace from there. And apart from Raikkonen leading for 1 lap when Alonso made his first stop, Fernando was never headed for the rest of the race. Mark, how decisive was Webber's role in Alonso's win? Do you think Fernando could have won if some of those faster chasing cars hadn't been bottled up behind the Jaguar in the first stint?
Well, I think Mark's position was a crucial part of Fernando's win. The Jaguar's qualifying race was about partly how good Mark was in 1 lap qualifying, and the growth really hard for the really easy
to throw away and lose it. Now let's hear from the man himself. Alonso recently spoke to the race's Scott Mitchell about his first win. Here's what he said about it.
I think looking back, it was very important. At that moment, it didn't feel that important. We qualified with a little less fuel than the others, just we wanted to be in front. And then, I remember quite well, Mark had a good start and slowed down a little bit the field. Then we were just performing the pit stops and we went into a rhythm that the car was flying into the race, and we loved Michael. At that time it was not a big thing, but then it became more and more a thing, you know, when you have the media involvement at the end of the race. But obviously I was very young. For me it felt like a normal step in my career. I didn't feel that special. I said, I came in Formula 1. Yes, I had my first podium. Yes, this was my first victory. But if it was not Hungary, I thought that it was a matter of time that I will get it. I was not aware of how difficult it is to win a Formula 1 Grand Prix or how difficult it is to win a championship. At that time, you are very young and you are not, realizing many things that are going around you. We were lacking some power that year. We have a very wide engine, engine, and we knew that the center of gravity was lower, and Hungary or the street circuits were good for us.
A bit more serious, and Fernando still had a little lip beard, whatever you call it, the D'Artagnan, I think maybe it's called. But it was starting to mature. Fernando was starting to mature. It was an amazingly, brilliantly controlled, aggressive and controlled drive, and he dominated really, the race. But also, let's bear in mind, this was a team ready to be delivering now. Renault had owned Benetton, taken over from them for a few years now. They had Flavio at the helm, Bob Bell, Pat Simmons, Steve Nielsen, big names of today, once we look back at it, who were actually there at the time, and to do with the engineering of the car. They had support from France. Patrick Faure was there, sort of being that link between Renault, France and Viry-Châtillon. It was all starting to get very serious, and I think they were ready to go. Patrick Faure, by the way, it's sort of a long time play on words with whenever he's replaced that next person, that big sort of Renault person, link between the Renault France and Enstone becomes Patrick 5, and then that replacement became Patrick 6. And then Patrick 7, and so much so that Alan Permain, when he met the new person, I think it was around when Eric Boulier was starting to do the thing, he said, I saw Patrick 8 then. And they didn't know what he was talking about.
Careful driver, actually. When you head back to the wall and into an early spin like that, sometimes I got the best out of breath. A curious driver sometimes. I think Williams felt this as well. High hopes from what it turned out. But I don't know, Mark, do you remember a kind of cross route, did they quite quick route on the day? What was it? Drive-through? Yeah, I've never really made that correlation, but probably might be right. I do recall that it could be devastating quick one day and the average the next, and it seemed to be any rhyme or reason to it. Yeah, it could be. And he doesn't get very angry when I was having some of the behind the scenes we can see play out in the model. Well, that was going to be my next question actually. Okay, I know when we discussed your theory on this episode, you mentioned sort of the fallout began straight after this race that led to the tyre problems we'll cover, the tyre control scheme we'll cover in more detail in the future. But were you getting wind into the pit lane in the paddock that Ferrari and Bridgestone were maybe going to try to do something behind the scenes to change their fortunes? Were any listed in how really it will emerge afterwards? I think it did emerge afterwards. I wasn't aware because it was a very, very closed shop. If it had been the other way around, you would have had a lot of people in the McLaren briefing the media, you would have had, likely Sam Michael or Mike Gascoigne or people like that saying, oh, look at that Bridgestone tyre wall. There's a scuff on there, what's that all about? Or you would have had someone go. So it was all this a very open and briefing teams, with the exception of Eddie Jordan perhaps, Jordan, who were on the Michelin side and then very defensive, and that helped them control the response to the bendy sidewalls and the too wide tyre tread. Whereas on the Ferrari side, all you had was Bridgestone, a very conservative Japanese company, feeding back what I remember was very privately to Ferrari, which was, hang on guys, I think we might have something here. Not only did they notice these scuff marks, which seems that they should be leaning on or they could be leaning on the sidewalls more, but has anyone ever actually measured how wide their tyre tread width is after the race, and then we get these little measuring devices with the hyper-accurate metal edges. And so, no, but looking back on it, I'm not surprised, because clearly Bridgestone have been looking at this, but I think they've been keeping it very confidential with the top levels of Ferrari and Michael Schumacher, that they might have something in their pocket to protest that. Okay, and then back to Hungary 2003, Ted. I mentioned Ross Moore would be high on your list after the race, the people you had to go and hunt down. What was the mood like at Ferrari? How big was Ross?
To know what he had up his pocket and what Bridgestone had up in their pocket for the next race in Monza.
Yeah, and we mentioned that a few times at Monza 2003. We will do a full episode on that and the tyre controversy in the future. We get plenty of questions, people asking when we're going to do it. I promise it's coming, not in this series, in a future series. Mark and Ted are both there, so perhaps we'll have you two back to explain what it was like scrambling around the paddock when you arrived at Monza, trying to work out what was going on and how it's going to change the championship fight. As for Hungary 2003, will forever be remembered as the day of Fernando Alonso's first win. So thank you to Mark and Ted for revisiting this one. Next time we're heading back 11 years to the 1992 Monaco Grand Prix, the race that marked the end of Nigel Mansell's winning streak at the start of that year, but only after a bit of bad luck and some masterful and robust defence from none other than Ayrton Senna.
The Athletic.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Risky Business, your weekly information security news and current affairs show. My name's Patrick Gray, and we've got an amazing show for you this week. We will be diving into Mudge's Twitter whistleblower complaint, and all the pretty damning, let's put it that way.
Yeah, Twitter's position as a platform really, does mean that it needs to do a bunch of things right, and we've seen prior to this, a bunch of stories about Twitter accounts getting hacked, things going wrong. So we were all, I guess, pretty unsurprised to see, some of the internal details of that, and the idea that Twitter doesn't have a dev environment, just does everything live. I mean, that sounds believable to me. I don't want it to be true, but that sort of detail, yeah. I mean, I can imagine that being the case. But there's just all sorts of things in here that range from technical things like not applying security patches, not having access control, for client workstations, laptops and things that check their security state, all the way through to employing Indian government security services agents to work at Twitter. And that's a pretty big allegation when you consider the importance of it to political debate all around the world.
Yeah, so there is a specific allegation that the Indian government kind of strong-armed Twitter into hiring one of its guys, right, to go in there and, into a position where they would have access to a lot of information. So, let's walk through the allegations in this thing, right? So, probably the most concerning one is that just basically everybody who works at Twitter has access to everything, right? That there's no logging, there's really poor control. So it's an inside threat actor's dream, right? The environment there. There's some other funny ones too, like when a user tries to delete data, Twitter's completely lost visibility to where that data goes.
All the people that are probably work with that's the key to it online. Some shout outs to them for doing it, and really was a pretty adverse environment.
Now look, here's the second part of this, right, where we talk about some other claims that Mudge has made in this whistleblowing complaint that have nothing to do with security. And to be honest, lend a little bit of weight to Twitter's defence that this is sour grapes. And it pains me to say that because you don't find many people in the security field who are as respected and revered as Mudge, okay? But he leads his entire whistleblower complaint saying that Twitter lied to Elon Musk about bots, right? And he does this whole rant about Twitter is using its metric for users, which is monetizable data from users, right? So this is the number of report in Delaware, and it's my sense they will either be deposing Lunge or putting him on the stand, and I don't know how that's going to go for him, if I'm going to be perfectly clear. I think it was a real mistake of him to put this stuff in a whistleblower complaint dealing with security stuff, when it looks, I mean, just from my reading as a publisher, right, I have to provide statistics and stuff to my customers. The way Twitter's doing it is fine, right? And I don't think it's going to look good for him when this progresses.
As you say, Mudge is very well respected, and that doesn't mean you can't be wrong about other stuff. And I talk about security settings, and maybe I'm an expert at that, but Lord, that not extends to being an expert at other things in my life as well. So, we can hold both those positions. I guess we're,
meditating on a beach in Thailand than he did on actually having anything to do with the day-to-day running of Twitter. Even in the complaint, it says that Mudge spoke to Jack something like 6 times the entire time he was there, and that was his boss. I'm led to believe that this created an extremely dysfunctional environment. I mean, the scene in The Simpsons of the monkeys knife fighting? Like, this is how I'm told basically security stuff was going inside Twitter, because it wasn't just a case that you had a CISO and a head of security. You also had people in engineering groups who considered certain parts of security to be their job. Okay, so you had multiple people all in this big fray fighting over stuff and no one there to do any deconfliction whatsoever. So you wound up with, as I say, just an extremely dysfunctional environment in which stuff didn't get done.
That makes a lot of sense. An environment like that, even if you were great or something like that, and data has walked out the door and available in some forums, people seem to be asking for reasonable money for it, though. 5.4 billion Twitter users.
That's a lot to unmask a site that's annoying you.
It is indeed. But yeah, it's also a pretty reasonable amount of people. I think I got notification from Twitter that I'm in there, so yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
It's like being famous. And yeah, so we'll link through the record slide of that in this week's show. Yeah, it was there for a long time. Now look, let's do a little bit of debunking right now. There was some research, I had a look at the embedded browsers, right, from social media apps and whatnot, and found that the TikTok one, injects a bunch of JavaScript into user sessions, which keylogs, basically everything that the user does with the mini browser gets keylogged and sent back to them. And this was reported as like,
It's different from the regular browser in the sense that it's controlled by the application and can inject JavaScript. And the research actually looked at some other applications, embedded browsers, and looked at whether they were injecting JavaScript, whether they were, other things that they were doing in this process. That technical distinction means nothing to a regular person.
yeah.
And even, to me, I don't know that I ever really thought through what the difference between invoking a browser inside an app versus